Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching YouTube channel, which is not this channel, and the Pro Wrestling Logic channel, which is this channel. If you are looking for life, relationship, business coaching, let's just get that out of the way. That's the way I make my living, and if you are looking for coaching in that direction, would love to be of assistance to you going forward. Please feel free to reach out on the channel if that is something you're interested in. But this is the WCW Saturday Review Series for the 27th of July 1992, 1 week after Beach Brawl or Beach Blast, which is one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time. I actually wish they'd kept it around a bit longer. I think they did one more in 93. Steve Austin is opening the program, although there is the highlight of Ricky Steamboat being attacked by Cactus Jack. They're going into that feud a little bit. After his Beach Blast match, and so that feud kind of carries us through little bit of the summer. Joey Maggs is the opponent. Jumpin' Joey Maggs is the opponent for Steve Austin. Steve Austin regaining the television championship not too terribly long ago. Then we kind of see Austin dropping knees into the arm and making fun of Maggs. Short clothesline lariat style by Austin as well, going very aggressively, assertively towards kind of being rather dominant actually. Then we see the drop of the kind of a stun gun style maneuver over the top rope. Austin not so thrilled with that process, and we kind of go that way and there. And so now, there's hype around the tag team title tournament. Post this match, of course, Austin gets a victory with a hot shot style maneuver, and there we go. Stun gun style maneuver, and just to be fair, Jim Ross is co-hosting the program with Michael P.S. Hayes. Bill Watts kind of talking about some changes to the area and modifying the championships and all of that, talking about wanting to fight and eventually, I think in the next couple of weeks here, talks about getting rid of the U.S. Tag Team Championships. Doc and Gordy make a bunch of noise about winning those championships eventually. We go back and we see a Steiner's, joined in progress match where Doc and Gordy are the opponents. One thing I will say about this particular contest is Doc and Gordy are majorly aggressively fighting the Steiners in grappling ways that most teams don't, and probably one of the more hard-hitting tag team feuds of the time. Of course, Dr. Death Steve Williams, a major force for, Bill Watts throughout the Mid-South days, so of course he's going to return to that. More highlights of that Clash of the Champions match, and of course the Steiners come out ahead in that. Anyway, we go back to, I guess you'd say, highlights of more talkie-talkie between Ross and Hayes. The U.S. Tag Team Championships still a thing at this point. Larry Zbyszko facing off in an enhancement talent match. They do show a clip where Zbyszko gets attacked by Steve Austin and Bobby Eaton before the enhancement talent match, basically kicked out of the Dangerous Alliance indirectly, turning babyface by default. Zbyszko, not necessarily liking much of this, does come into the match with, I believe the name is The Shadow, or some equally obsequious masked wrestler name at the time. Martial arts kicked by Zbyszko, and he goes to town using a blend of babyface and heel maneuvers along the way. Not really clear on where he is quite yet, although he does get clear in the promo post-match. Snaps the man over and does a seated abdominal stretch, does the former AWA champion, hitting a wrist lock and other basic things. Amazing to think that 12 years before he had kind of gone at it with Bruno Sammartino. Um, Larry goes for quite a number of pinning combinations, including small packages and backslides, and eventually gets the win. Zbyszko does grab a win pretty decisively. Basically says he's done with the Dangerous Alliance because no one calls him weak or a wimp or anything like that. Ron Simmons, who is probably about maybe a month and a half away from winning the World Championship, maybe 2 months at most, but within months, is in an enhancement match here. He is looking to be, to this point, in the best shape of his career, and that is another thing that Bill Watts is excited about. Watts does do commentary for the programs throughout. Nothing really major to write home about in the match itself. Backdrops, hip tosses, and eventually a spine buster for Simmons. And then we go to a hype series for the Great American Bash, which is coming up. This is where they started to add more pay-per-views. Vader lays out Sting in a taped house show series. Sting stumbling back, and obviously he loses the championship to Vader at the Great American Bash in 4 or 5 weeks here, but Sting is made to look like $1 million. Referees can't break them up. Harley Race is happy with this. Sting's punches look pretty aggressive there, but nothing really gets settled, and we hype various other matches coming up at the Great American Bash. Of course, the Great American Bash is also the culmination of the Tag Team Championship Tournament. Chris Sullivan against the Super Invader, otherwise known as Hercules Hernandez under a mask. Horrible gimmick. Harley Race still managing the Super Invader, something I still don't understand all these years later. Punches and kicks and basic stuff. Super Invader made to look like a martial artist of sorts, wearing a sock over his head. Hits a sidewalk slam, among other maneuvers that don't really lead him in a direction he necessarily needs to go, but there is a gut wrench attempt and a power bomb after some body slams. Harley Race says that he wants his man to get a hold of Steamboat, so apparently somebody basically has put the equivalent of a bounty on Steamboat's head. Ron Simmons cuts a short promo and basically said he's not hard to find. He's willing to fight anybody. And then we go to another enhancement level match as Terry Taylor makes his way out. Wearing a suit jacket, this time being known as the Tailor-Made Man. That's a name they've used intermittently for Taylor at this time frame, but not every time out. Actually, not in the enhancement match, I was wrong. That's another week ahead here. But Dustin Rhodes is the opponent. Rhodes and Taylor kick off, literally, as Rhodes tries to kick him off for kind of taking him down off an abdominal stretch type maneuver. Then we see the switch of the stretch between both guys. Rhodes takes him down with some arm drags. Rhodes is a bit surprised. This match had been hyped in the previous week by Dusty Rhodes, watching his son rise through the ranks. Several minutes of arm work by Taylor, or by Rhodes, and Taylor kind of does the majority of the selling. Basic match, nothing to really write home about if you like the flippy-floppy style of today. But for the sake of psychology, something as simple as a spin around into a clothesline can completely change the momentum of a match. And again, we see a double down, neither guy really having a terrible advantage here. Taylor comes back and hits a bunch of aggressive maneuvers, and eventually we see Greg Valentine make his way out, jumping his man and leading to the disqualification. After the victory, Ron Simmons runs in to make a save on his friend Dustin Rhodes. So there's an alliance, I guess, formulated by Simmons and Rhodes at this point, at least loosely. So establishing Ron Simmons as a babyface who gives a dang is the main goal there. Greg Valentine, who oddly enough gets more singles matches than other guys in the era, against Mike Graham. Mike Graham, of course, a Florida standout and a friend of Dusty Rhodes. Graham kind of has some interesting, I guess you'd say, pedigree in the sense of comes in and out of prominence at a national level through the end of WCW in 2000, 2001, primarily then as a backstage agent. But he shows up all the way back to 1990, 91. Does Graham. Graham does a bunch of takedowns on Valentine before Valentine takes him down with some clubbing shots. Valentine continues to be in control for the good bit of the match, using cheating tactics and forearms and the like. Graham brings him back up with basic wrestling. Actually takes the leg, which is surprising from Graham. Cut off by Valentine using some forearms, drop toe hold, and working the leg by Graham. Eventually they go into the battle over the figure four, which of course is Greg Valentine's famous hold, or the hold that made him famous, I guess the way you look at it. Amazingly, though, Graham makes his way out into a leg grapevine. Valentine makes his way to the ropes a bit, and ultimately, not exactly your greatest situation, but a cheating roll-up by Valentine gets him the eventual victory, and Valentine on a win streak here, surprisingly. So then we see a Steiner's promo. They're talking about being international superstars, talking about wanting the NWA and WCW Tag Team Championships, Unified Championships, and the like. Then we go back to enhancement talent matches, and let's see, Dan Spivey is here. He's not here very long that I seem to recall, but he's here. And he ties up, and some arm drag stays on the arm of Chris Sullivan. Sullivan actually does get a few offensive maneuvers, but nothing to write home about. The continued work by Spivey on the arm takes the man down and kind of gets some ride time. Spivey doesn't really find a great deal to do here in WCW 92. The majority of Spivey's best work, at least in my estimation, was Japan, so that's there. And he eventually, we see him go to the top rope with a vertical suplex and a float over, 1, 2, 3, and there you go. That is that, and victory is gotten. And actually, I believe that whole thing was Barry Windham, believe it or not. So, anyway, then we see Nikita Koloff in a enhancement talent match, basic match here. Nothing terrible to write home about either here. And so Koloff is moving towards feuding with Rick Rude. They build that over the next several weeks. Koloff had been invited to join the Dangerous Alliance, wants nothing to do with it. Lots of early power moves, but nothing from the enhancement talent that's too aggressive. Koloff does beat down on the enhancement talent quite a bit, including vertical snap suplexes, and eventually the Russian sickle gets the victory for Koloff. Again, they show footage of Rick Rude calling him out, saying he doesn't know how to be a team player, doesn't know how to care about anybody but himself, how he's selfish. Nikita answers this and says the only thing that he cares about is winning the U.S. title. Then we go to a six-man tag team match here. The main event six-man, which is not really that main event, but I guess is by comparison to what half the stuff that goes on today looks like, is Morton, Smothers, and Parker versus Johnny B. Bad, Flying Brian Pillman, and the Z-Man. Interesting combinations. It's a six-man tag to basically fill 15 minutes to close the show. I wouldn't say it is a can't-miss match. I wouldn't say it's something that has, a great deal of storyline advancement or anything like that. I would say for fans, it's an enjoyable match. Although I've never been a fan of six-man, so perhaps I'm a little biased. Anyway, Johnny B. Bad is a babyface at this point who, for better or worse, is having, I'd say, some issues with things. The product I'm watching is a little blurry, but for the most part, Bad starts with one of the heels. I think actually was Smothers. Smothers being gone is just bad for independent wrestling. There's a whole generation of people who could benefit and would have benefited from being around him. Bad hits a high knee that isn't very high and is a lot of knee. But anyway, that leads to some challenges and hard shots by the Z-Man. Z-Man, maybe with a little bit different haircut. It just looks a little different to me. Maybe it's the difference in tight color that I've seen. I don't really know, but he looks different to me in this match than other matches. Of course, Tom Zink, done with wrestling by early 2000. Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker ends up running the power plant, I believe. Some pretty basic stuff by the Bad team. And Pillman tries to go off the top rope, doesn't get all he wants on that, and manages to get disqualified. Ole Anderson manages to complain about that because of the new rules laid down by Bill Watts, saying that all top rope maneuvers are not legal. Ultimately, then we go into the situation where that disqualification is challenged. Smothers says he can beat Pillman one-on-one. Pillman wants Smothers somewhere down the line. Then we go to a main event. Short match of about 5-6 minutes. Anderson works over Buff Bagwell. Well, he's not Buff yet. He's Marcus Alexander Bagwell. Bagwell has been in the WCW at this point for less than about a year. Gets a good bit out of it. And Anderson hits some shoulders. Short near falls by Bagwell. Doesn't get very far, but he is in the rookie position. Gets hit with a spine buster and loses the match. And then we move on to the next program. We'll be back with more, including the AEW Dynamite review right after this.